Roni the white rabbit woke up one morning to the sound of rustling leaves outside his burrow. He rubbed his eyes and peered out through the small opening. The sunlight was just beginning to filter through the trees, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Roni stretched his small legs and twitched his nose. Something felt different today. He couldn't quite put his paw on it, but the air was thick with a sense of mystery. Roni had always been a curious rabbit. His friends in the forest often teased him for being so adventurous. But Roni never minded. He loved exploring the woods around his home and discovering new things. Today, he felt that the woods were calling him in a way they hadn't before. As he hopped out of his burrow, Roni noticed that the leaves underfoot seemed softer, almost as if the earth itself had become a cushion. He sniffed the air and twitched his ears, listening for any sign of danger, but everything was calm. Too calm, perhaps, Roni thought. The birds weren't singing, and there was no breeze to rustle the trees. Despite the stillness, Roni felt a strong urge to venture further into the forest, so he did. With each hop, he felt the world around him shift ever so slightly. The colors of the trees seemed to blur and bend, as if the forest itself was alive and changing. Roni blinked, but the trees still looked strange, as if they were moving in slow motion. He shook his head and kept going. The further he went, the more the forest seemed to close in on him. Branches reached down like arms, and the shadows grew darker still. Roni was determined to figure out what was happening. He was not afraid, not yet at least. Soon he reached a clearing he had never seen before. The ground was covered in thick green moss that seemed to pulse with energy. In the center of the clearing was a large stone, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. Roni cautiously approached it, his heart beating faster than usual. As he drew near, the stone began to hum gently. The sound was soothing, but it filled the clearing with an otherworldly vibration. Roni touched the stone with his paw. The moment he did, everything changed. The forest around him vanished, replaced by a swirling vortex of colors and light. Roni felt himself being pulled into the vortex, spinning faster and faster until he couldn't tell which way was up or down. It felt as though he was flying through space without any sense of direction or control. He wanted to panic, but something deep inside him told him to remain calm. After what felt like an eternity, the spinning stopped. Roni found himself standing in a new place, a place that looked nothing like the forest he had known before. The sky above was a strange shade of purple, and the trees here were tall and silver, their leaves shimmering like stars in the wind. The air smelled sweet, like honey and flowers. Roni's eyes widened in amazement. This was no ordinary forest, he had somehow traveled to another world. How could this have happened, he wondered aloud as he hopped cautiously forward. There was no one around, no sign of life except for the wind that whispered through the leaves. Roni continued exploring, fascinated by everything he saw. As he hopped over a small hill, he noticed something in the distance, a large shimmering pool of water with a mirror-like surface. It looked inviting. Roni was thirsty from his journey, so he decided to hop closer. As he reached the edge of the pool, he looked down and saw his reflection. But something was off. Instead of his usual white fur, his reflection showed a glowing golden rabbit staring back at him. Roni gasped and took a step back. He looked at his paws. His fur was still white, but his reflection in the pool remained golden. Curious and a bit startled, Roni dipped his paw into the water. As soon as he touched it, ripples spread across the surface, and his reflection changed again, this time showing him with wings sprouting from his back. Roni blinked and pulled his paw out of the water. The reflection returned to normal. but the image of himself with wings lingered in his mind. Could this pool show glimpses of what he could become, or was it just a trick of the water? Suddenly, a voice called out from behind him, a soft, melodic voice, like the wind itself. Roni turned around but saw no one there. "Who's there?" he called out, his heart racing in response. The voice laughed softly. "I've been waiting for you, Roni," it said. "You've crossed into a world where the impossible becomes possible, but you must choose your path carefully." Roni's ears perked up. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" he asked, still searching for the source of the voice. "I am the guardian of this world," the voice replied. "My form is not something you can see, but I guide those who find their way here. This world is full of magic, Roni, but it is also full of dangers. You've already begun to see glimpses of your potential, but there is much more to discover if you're brave enough to continue." Roni took a deep breath. He was scared, but also excited. He had always dreamed of adventures like this, and now it seemed he was living one. "What do I need to do?" he asked, ready to take on whatever challenge lay ahead. The voice grew quieter, almost as if it was fading away. "Follow the signs, trust your instincts, and remember, you are more powerful than you think." Roni looked around but still saw no one. The forest was silent again except for the gentle rustling of the silver leaves. He thought about what the voice had said about potential and danger. What could it have meant? What kind of power did he have? He didn't feel any different than before, except for the strange things he had seen in the pool of water. Deciding to follow his instincts, as the voice had suggested, Roni hopped away from the pool and continued deeper into the shimmering forest. As he went, he noticed that the trees seemed to glow brighter the further he traveled, as if guiding him towards something important. After a while, he reached another clearing, this one filled with strange glowing flowers. In the center of the clearing stood a tall figure, its form cloaked in shadows but its eyes glowing with the same blue light as the stone Roni had touched earlier. The figure raised a hand, beckoning Roni closer. "Welcome, traveler," it said in a deep voice. "You've come far, but your journey is only just beginning. There is much you must learn if you wish to survive in this world." Roni felt a shiver run down his spine, but he stood tall. "I'm not afraid," he said, though his voice wavered slightly. The figure nodded. "Good, because fear will only hold you back." It stepped closer, revealing more of its form, though it was still shrouded in mystery. "You've seen glimpses of what lies within you," the figure continued, "but there is more power inside you than you realize. If you wish to unlock it, you must face the trials ahead." Roni swallowed hard. "Trials? What kind of trials?" The figure smiled, though it was a shadowy smile filled with mystery and secrets. "Trials that will test your heart, your courage, and your will to continue."